Oh, hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. Okay, so continuing my efforts to have some kind of classic best favorite type lists up here on the channel. Just for your reference, I get asked a lot like, hey, what's your favorite contemporary romance? What's your favorite classic? What's your whatever? I'm trying to do better about getting some of that kind of content up for y'all's reference. I'm sure you're just waiting on tenterhooks for it. I don't mean that to sound like everybody's just breathlessly waiting for my favorites, but more just so I can point people to things when they ask. So I'm continuing that effort, and today we are going to talk about my favorite classic mysteries. So in a few weeks, we'll talk about some of my favorite contemporary mysteries, but for now, I wanted to talk about my favorite classics. Of course, I'm always reading more. I'm always adding new favorites. I'm always finding new authors that I really love, all of that. This is a living, breathing list, but as of this moment, in May 2019, these are some of my favorites. I think I've got about 10-ish of them. And I should also just caveat and say that I'm including like mystery, suspense, thriller, horror, all kind of in one bundle. At some point, I'm going to do a video talking about some of like the nuances between those genres that I think of as all being pretty interrelated, but that today is not that video. So just know that this includes a couple of things I'd probably more consider to be thriller or horror, but we'll just call it my classic mysteries. Let's get into it. Just for funsies, we'll start with some of the ones that I don't have in physical form, and then we'll work my way into the ones where I do have them in physical form, because I can tell you my really my 5 very favorite classic mysteries. So we'll work our way up to that. So first of all, let's go with The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett. This is really the only noir that I've ever read and liked. I've tried some Raymond Chandler and didn't like it as much. I think I was primed to like this because I had seen and loved the movie before I read the book, but I think the book stands up on its own. Like, it's a really satisfying book of its type. Like I said, it's really one of the only noirs I've ever really enjoyed. And yeah, I think the kind of characterization and mood of it are spot on, and the MacGuffin in it, I think, is very satisfying. So Maltese Falcon, I would definitely put on this list. I would also put The Quiet American by Greene on this list. Now, this I struggled with if this really belonged on this list. To some degree, I guess it's not like a classic mystery. There is a murder involved, and a lot of it, I think, is more kind of a political thriller, but I felt like it did ultimately belong here. I absolutely love this. This is one of my very favorite Greenes. The level of sort of like prescience in this, in terms of like how the Vietnam and American political situation would evolve, is kind of wild. So there's the kind of historical aspect of this I really enjoy. But I also think, just like as we're with the main character and kind of following him as he's unpacking this like young idealistic American's time in Vietnam, and like seeing how his views on things evolve and kind of the path that leads him down, I found to be really satisfying. So for me, I think of this as a mystery, even if maybe it's not a traditional one. It's definitely a political thriller, if nothing else, so I did feel like it belonged on this list. Next up is the Father Brown Mysteries by G.K. Chesterton. I have my eye on a very nice hardback edition of this, so hopefully I will have this in physical form sometime soon, but right now I don't. I have not reread these since I was a teenager, so I'd actually be quite interested to see how they hold up. But at the time, I absolutely loved them. I remember just being really taken with kind of the shorter mystery form. I think that this was a very formative book for me in terms of kind of cementing that I really like short story mysteries. That's really one of my very favorite things to read. So I really love these. G.K. Chesterton just has a lightness of tone in his writing. Like, his authorial voice is just delightful. Like, I love it. And I think that that's a huge part of what sort of sells this book to me, or like gets it across. I just absolutely remember loving this. So I need to do a reread. Maybe I'll do that next year after I have my nice hardback copy. But yeah, it's super good. And then the last one of these that I do not yet have in physical form, and actually this would probably be in the top 5. It'd be like maybe tied for number 5, is Gaudy Night by Dorothy Sayers. So I really love a lot of the Peter Wimsey mysteries that I've read, but this is far and away my favorite. It's a kind of comedy of manners, or like, it's kind of like if Jane Austen wrote mysteries, I would say is the vibe of the Peter Wimsey books. And this one is set at Oxford, and there is a mystery like in one of the colleges, and it's like the only all-female college. So there's just a lot in here that I love in terms of like themes and setting really work for me. This is also one of the Peter Wimsey books that has a very strong romantic element of it, because Harriet Vane is at the college, and that is sort of his on-again, off-again lady. And this is a very significant book in their relationship. So like, I love the romantic subplot as well as the mystery plot. Peter Wimsey can be a little bit of an ass. Like, I don't necessarily love him the way I have a lot of affection for Poirot or Marple. But he, you know, I deal with him. He's good. And yeah, I would say aside from Agatha Christie, Dorothy Sayers is definitely my favorite like golden age of detective fiction author. I have like dipped my toes in the water with like Josephine Tey and Nagao Marsh. I haven't found things from them that I love as much, but I have plans to kind of revisit them and give them another try as an adult. I mean, I read them in my early, like in college. So I kind of want to try them again. But anyway, so besides Agatha Christie, Dorothy Sayers is definitely my favorite, so she definitely needed to be on this list. Gaudy Night is definitely my favorite. I said definitely 3,000 times. Gaudy Night is certainly my favorite of her works, followed probably by Busman's Honeymoon. Okay, so then moving into things I have in physical form. And probably the only one on here that could be considered more horror than anything else. I did want to mention The Haunting of Hill House. This was my favorite reread I did last year. It just holds up, man. Like the writing is amazing. The tone and the setting are really compelling, I think. This is like masterful in terms of like the haunted house genre. I absolutely loved it. Okay, and then getting into my top 5, and I would probably put this one as tied with Gaudy Night if I really had to think that through, but anyway. The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. This book is amazing. I remember loving this and being so surprised at how funny I thought it was and how feminist I found it in a lot of ways. Like, I think that he definitely is playing with some like classic tropes of male and female protagonists in a way that I think definitely is poking fun at some ideas of like gender roles. And then there's a sister who is just like so amazing. I don't know. I think thematically for something written in the mid 1800s, this is amazing. The mystery I think is really fun. Wilkie Collins is one of the kind of people in the mix of having invented the modern mystery genre. There's a few different people who get cited, but he's definitely, this book in particular is definitely like one of the ones in the mix as like the first modern or like true mystery genre novel. It doesn't necessarily follow all the sort of like plot beats of a typical mystery as we would know it today, but it definitely is recognizably a mystery. I think it's a great one. I really love the villains in here. They're very mustache twirling. And this is definitely something that I often recommend people like start classics with, because it does just have like very strong plot elements of it that are reminiscent of genre fiction that we have today. Number 4. The complete Sherlock Holmes, the Sherlock Holmes short stories. I'm not as wild about the novellas, to be totally honest with you. Like, I know A Study in Scarlet and Hound of the Baskervilles, like, people love those. They're not my favorite from Arthur Conan Doyle Sherlock. I prefer just like the straight up like 3-page long short stories. I love them. And they just have such a specific kind of formula or sort of like plot beats that they always have that I find really soothing. If Father Brown kind of hinted to me that I really loved mystery short stories, this like cemented it. I would say I probably prefer Agatha Christie short stories over the Sherlock Holmes ones, but that's just purely a matter of preference, because these are absolutely fantastic. I think they're so fun. I think that this would be another really friendly way to get into classics, again, because there's just such a plot element to this that I think people can connect with. And I also think that this is a great kind of thing to give to younger readers, because they are short, they're very plot driven, they're very fun to kind of like try to figure out what's going on and see what the clues are and kind of get used to the types of solutions there are. So I absolutely love these. They really, I mean, they hold up. Like, people love these. And I mean, the number of remakes of Sherlock truly dazzles the mind. Like, who can even count? So beloved for a reason. Okay, and then my top 3 are going to be my top 3 favorite Agatha Christie's. Just so you know, because I do get asked this a lot, I do currently have a Where to Start with Agatha Christie video up. I am going to refresh that once I finish my Marple reread, because I think I will have reread or read for the first time in some cases enough of her canon in the last couple of years to sort of refresh myself on what I think some of her best stuff is. And then I'm also going to do a ranking video that is purely my preference. So I'm going to rank all the Agatha Christie books that I have read from worst to best. So the top, just a sneak peek, unless I read something that just really throws things off. The top of the list are these 3 right here. I'm kind of not sure which of these 2 I like better. These are both standalone Christies, so that's interesting, and they're both great. And I think that this is the better of the 2 in terms of like quality. In terms of my personal preference, it's kind of a toss-up. This has my all-time favorite mystery trope, which is an isolated house, closed circle, you're all trapped together and people start dying type thing. And she is the, I think, real master of that trope. And like this has spawned a lot of other books. So I love this, but Crooked House is just her doing her like psychology bit so well, and I just love it. I have read or listened to these books each probably easily 20 times. I don't know. I really love them both. I would put them as like 2 and 3. I'm gonna have to work that out before we get to that video. And then number 1, I'm gonna go with Cards on the Table. Again, one that I have reread or listened to easily 20 to 30 times at this point. I love it. I think it it's Poirot. It's my favorite Poirot, and I love Poirot, so that's why I would probably put it over one of those 2. And I just think it's her doing what she does best, which is like, it is another sort of like closed circle or locked room type mystery. And then Poirot is just really digging into the psychology of these 4 people who could have done it and working out who done it from that. And I just love it. Like, it's just so, I find this so satisfying. And I just, yeah, it's great. Those would be my 3, I would say my 3 favorite classic mysteries, because they're probably my 3 favorite Christies. But like I said, stay tuned, because I will do a ranking video of my personal favorites sometime later in the year. And I think that will do it for my favorite classic mysteries / some thriller, suspense, horror thrown in there for good measure. Like I said, I'll do a contemporary version of this sometime in the next few weeks. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know any of your favorite classic mysteries or things that you were expecting to see on here, maybe that weren't. Definitely let me know that in the comments. And besides that, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below. And I will just talk to you soon. Bye!